Welcome back to another episode of Rob Sports Center, man. As you can see by the title, we're gonna jump straight into it. And so I ran across this question the other day, and they was asking about who was the best point guard, the greatest point guard of all time out of Magic Johnson and Steph Curry. So here's my take on this, on that debate. The thing is, I don't really view Steph Curry as a point guard, so to speak, because a lot of his damage that he does is more so off the ball. Now, granted, Steph can operate on ball and, just like he did there, can facilitate, get people involved. But I'm just saying on a more consistent basis, there is just two different playing styles. I look at Steph more so as a shooting guard. Granted, I know he's 6'3", so people are going to be like, oh, he's too short to be a shooting guard. But when you look at how he's utilized within his offense, you have the Draymond Green. The Draymond Green is what you would consider a point forward. Like he's kind of like the Magic. His whole thing is to operate and get everybody else involved. Whereas and most of the time that's Steph running around the court, running around those picks, trying to put himself in position to make shots. And that's something that, Magic doesn't really do. Magic, for the most part, when you look at Magic brings the ball up the court. Magic comes down court. He facilitates. He gets everybody else involved. When you look at Steph, most of the time, Steph is coming up court off the ball. And what is he doing once he come up court? He's running. He's moving. He's trying to find ways to get open, to create space so he can get his shots off. So I look at it as more different of a playing style. Whereas with Magic whole thing is like I always say, I've done reaction videos about Larry Bird and a few about Magic. And I was like, the thing about dealing with guys like Magic and Bird is that you have to have eyes in the front of your head, the back of your head, the sides of your heads, and the top of your head. And the reason why I say this is because you just never know when you're gonna get the ball, and you just never know how you're going to get the ball. When you look at Magic Johnson play, you're looking at a true point guard, a facilitator, a guy that's getting everybody else involved. So Magic can come out and probably can score maybe 10 points and still have a big impact on the game because of how much he was getting other people involved. Whereas with Steph, if Steph comes out and have, maybe 15 points or whatever the case may be, the Warriors probably not going to win that game because that just tells you that he probably was just having an off night or whatever the defense was doing to him on that particular game. They were able to minimize him and slow him down. So it's one of those things where, like I say, it's just two completely different playing styles. Like Steph, and like I say, Steph can get guys involved. He can facilitate. He can pass. But Steph is more of a scorer than that. You know what I mean? And then when you look at, the versatility, like I say, when you look at a guy like Magic Johnson, right? Well, I know a lot of people, like, when we have this debate, everybody's going to be like, well, Steph Curry is a two-time MVP, a unanimous MVP, the first, the unanimous MVP, yada, yada, yada. And it's like, I'm not saying that Steph isn't a good player. You gotta open up your ears and listen to what I'm saying. I'm saying when we speaking about point guards, right? When we speaking about point guards, we're not speaking about him as a player. Steph is a phenomenal player, the greatest, shooter that we've ever seen, and a very good finisher, in my opinion. I feel like that's a skill that it gets overlooked because of his ability to shoot the ball at the rate that he shoots it. So I think a lot of times we overlook him as a finisher, but we're talking about a point guard. Like I say, right here, look at most of his highlights. Most of it is him operating off the ball. So when you watch Steph play, like I say, it's almost more so like you're watching a shooting guard, not necessarily a point guard, and when you look at, like when I was telling my dad, I was like, that's one of those things where even if you're saying, okay, we're going to compare those two, what Steph do, Magic can't do in terms of the shooting. And what Magic does in ways Steph can't do in terms of the facilitating and being able to play a game and only score 10 points, 15 points and still win the game. So when you look at it from that perspective, they're both two different athletes. They're both two different players. What they bring to the table they bring a different set of skills to the table if you're comparing just off of a point guard alone. You know what I mean? So that's a very hard comparison to make. Like if we're going to compare, Magic Johnson to a current day's point guard, it would be more like you said, like a point guard, like a Steve Nash or a Jason Kidd, point guys who actually were facilitators. And I know a lot of Steph Curry fans are probably going to be upset because y'all are going to be listening with emotions and thinking that I'm trying to discredit Steph Curry and his contribution to the game. And no, that's not it. I'm just saying that whenever we're having these debates and these discussions, we got to kind of look more deeply into them than what's on the surface. And when you look at it, the way that Steph and the way that the position is played, period, nowadays, and it's not just Steph, point guards today are more so like shooting guards. I mean, it's not a whole bunch of them that their whole mentality is, I need to get everyone else involved. I'm bringing the ball down court. I'm watching. I'm allowing things to set up. I'm allowing things to develop, and I'm putting people in the right position. It's not a lot of that. When you look at the guys, most of the point guards in today's game, most of them are high volume scorers, and that's obviously just the evolution of the game. So when you look at the Denver Nuggets, and you look at what they are able to do with Jokic. Jokic can be the Magic. Jokic can be the guy that comes out and scores 10 points and still win the game. But then it allows Jamal Murray in a lot of ways to operate off the ball to try to create shots and to get and to get guys like Aaron Gordon and stuff involved. And that's just the way it is now. The game has evolved in such a manner over the years that the positions are played a lot differently than what they were. And like I said, once again, I'm not saying that Steph cannot facilitate, because we do know that Steph can find the right people, and we know just based off of his effect as a shooter, it creates opportunities for him to facilitate and get others involved. So that was just my thing on it. I just kind of gave a brief take on that topic. That was something that I had been meaning to do. I just hadn't got around to it just yet, but I was like, man, you know what? I need to put some content out. So this is going to be one of them. But like I said, man, once again, and this is something else too, I want to be able to get across. So we have to understand, and we have to find appreciation and value for the game the way it was played and for the game the way it is played now. What do you mean by that? So if you notice, a lot of times when we're having these debates, right, you're going to have the old school people who are going to, try to tear down the new school to build up the old school. And then you're going to have the new school try to tear down the old school to build up the new school. So my thing is, we have to understand, okay, we have to appreciate the game at all aspects because of the contribution that the legends of the past gave to the game, and it allowed for what we see today, for the game to have evolved so much as it has over the years. So everybody has played a point to this point to get the game to where it's at. So I just think that when we having these debates, I do believe that we can have healthy debates. I do believe that we can have those what if debates. But what we have to minimize is the slander of either or. Like when you think about old school, new schools, what they say, they was playing against electricians and plumbers. Right. But those guys were skilled. Those guys were talented. It's just the way the game was played is such a different than what it is now. So if you're judging the game back then based off what it is now from a new school perspective, yeah, you're going to say that those guys wasn't skilled because of the way the game was played back then. And it's like even with the old school, if you look at a lot of them say, oh, the game is soft nowadays and it's not as physical as it was back in the day. And in a lot of ways, you are right. They do call a lot of tic-tac fouls, but we can't take away from the greatness that is Steph Curry and what we've seen him do. We can't take away from the greatness that is LeBron James in terms of him being having one of the longest peaks that we have ever seen in the sport of basketball. So we can't minimize these guys' accomplishments to try to big up the other. Like, why can't we just look and say, okay, well, you know what? The way the game was played back then, I'm appreciative of it. I still like it. I still watch it. But then I'm a bigger fan of the way the game has evolved and how we've gotten to this point now. And I just think that's something that we have to try to get into, is get out of trying to tear it down someone to build up someone else. You know what I mean? But man, like I said, man, I just want to kind of touch on that topic briefly, man. If it's anything that you guys, if it's anything that I said that you guys agree with, or if it's anything I said that you guys disagree with, man, let me know in the comments. I always look forward to interacting with you guys, man. But like I said, if you did enjoy this video, do me a big favor, smash that thumbs up button. Also, if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe. And when you subscribe, click that post notification bell if you're enjoying my content, man. You don't want to miss it. I'm trying to keep these uploads coming, and I'll see y'all in the next video.